Hi, kindergarten, first and second grade leaders. We're preparing for our last lesson in Lost and Found on February 23rd. In this lesson, we'll be taking a look at the book of Zechariah. In our series, we've looked at God's people in captivity in Babylon and what kind of all the things that they went through while they were there, and the prophets that were sent to help encourage them and to help direct them back toward God and toward Jesus. Jesus is coming. What we will see in our lesson today is Zechariah was given many visions, and his visions helped paint a picture of what God was preparing his people to know that Jesus, when he came when he was born, that he would be the Savior King that God had been promising the entire time. And so Zechariah gets these visions that help paint pictures for the people and also for Zechariah so that he can tell the people God's promises. And one of the promises that we see Zechariah share in this time is that the Messiah is coming, and he would be coming riding a donkey. And this paints a picture many years, hundreds of years before Jesus actually rides into town on the donkey at the triumphal entry during Easter week. We see this picture of what God is preparing his people for them to realize that this Savior King is a different king than any other king they've been looking for, and that he has promised and he makes good on his promises, and he also means well for his people. He means good for his people. So your small group lesson today will be your last day with your Legos. And so maybe you guys just want to put away your cards and see what kind of big structure you can build together with every single Lego that you have in your bucket. Have fun with that. That's a way for you to build a relationship with kids in your small group. And then when you get to small group time, you have a bag full of goodies that look like this and a piece of cardboard on your small group table area. What you're going to do is use your cardboard to make kind of a ramp. And since my cardboard is not giant, you may have to build the ramp from a chair down to the floor. And what you're going to do is show each of the objects to the kid and ask them to make a prediction of whether they think that that object will go down the ramp quickly or not. So maybe you want actually two objects to go down at the same time and see which one goes down faster down your ramp. Obviously, some things that have wheels might go the fastest, but maybe not. You may want to arrange your ramp. You may have to hold it so that the ramp can hold whatever object is going down it. You also have a ball that should stay in your small group area so that we can use it for other things in the future. All of these items we need back if possible. They get used real regularly in all other settings, and so this is just to set an example of ways that you can talk about what you're about to talk about in small group. And what the reason that we are racing things down a ramp today is to kind of paint a picture for kids. Sometimes we have a picture in our mind of what we think things are going to look like or turn out to be. And sometimes those things are ways that God has directed us to see them, but just like God directed Zechariah, sometimes God means something else, and that Savior King that was coming was going to look different than the Savior King that many of the Israelites were looking for and are still looking for. And so talk about that. Use your leader guide as a way to have that conversation. And then I also recommend to you in small group You have your discussion questions, and your discussion questions are usually written before your activity. But I highly recommend to you that you play your activity first, and as you're playing your activity, begin to talk through some of those questions, because what you're trying to do is help build a conversation more than a quiz of who has the right answer and who has the wrong answer. So when you add those questions throughout an activity, you're helping kids find ways that they can relate, and many of your kids can't just sit and have a big conversation with you. Now, if they know you, they might be able to do that, but you want to help them start thinking about these Bible stories in a different way, so they can begin to relate to them in a different way, so they can begin to have discussions with groups of people, and eventually get to where they can share what God is teaching them and learn to take their next steps. Then your memory verse activity. You have your cups still, and you have an object that you'll hide under the cups. Maybe today you don't want to use the cups, or maybe as you stack the cups or something, you can put all the cups together. They have to say a section of the cups before somebody knocks them down, or you can do some other kind of fun game with your cups today. Kids should be getting used to this memory verse. Now, I will tell you that at most weeks, we have up to probably 20 new kids. And so when we have 20 new kids a week, many of them do not know the memory verse from memory. So these activities are meant to help those kids in particular begin to learn this memory verse. On Wednesday nights, we really focus on helping the kids totally memorize the memory verse. But when they are here on Sunday, this is their introduction. Every Sunday is an introduction to most kids of who Jesus is and the gospel and why it's important for our lives. So I encourage you to continue to keep that mindset as you continue to lead kids. Thank you so much for leading. You can pray with your kids and encourage them to go home and talk about what they thought about Zechariah's visions, and if they had those kind of visions, what they would think they meant. Next weekend, we have our leader huddle, and this is one you don't want to miss. We're going to be talking about what it means to be a fully committed member at Parkway Church. And I know you serve regularly, but do you know what Parkway teaches and why we teach it, and why we think it's important for everybody to learn and to take their next step? If you don't think you know the answer to those questions quite yet, come to this huddle so that we can talk about that together. We'll talk to you guys soon.